Welcome to Good News You Can Use, featuring Raven Blair Glover, and I'm your co-host, Jeff Wolf. This is your weekly dose of finding people doing good works in their community. How are you doing today, Raven?
I am Peachy King. Been doing a few stuff with the computer, but you know how that is. We live in a techno world, but I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. I'm feeling blessed to be here another day and do the good news you can use report. Love
That's
it.
right. I'm so glad that you're here. Our first story today or for this episode, is called Smokin' Hope, and it comes to us from today. And it is about a barbecue master in Phoenix that uses his craft to feed people that are, that are hungry. They don't have enough food. So he's combating food insecurity.
Oh
He
wow.
and he has some of the best barbecue. So it's pulled
You
pork
make
and
me hungry.
tamales, and he goes out into the community with his team and provides food for people that are really in need. And he had
Now
thought that
that's
the first
cool.
time that, isn't it? It's just like,
Super
he
cool.
studied
Yeah.
online. He's been just a fan and just obsessed with barbecue since a young age. He
Mm.
studied the barbecue masters on the internet, on their Yahoo or on their YouTube videos, and then he applied that, got his craft down to where he's really turning out some delicious barbecue.
Oh,
And
love
he
it.
said he'd hoped to be able to feed about 30 people the first time that he and his team did it, and
Uh-huh.
they were able to feed more than 100. And
What?
isn't that amazing? Over 100 people. They've continued to do that in the Phoenix area,
That's super
and
amazing. Yeah.
it's just
I love stories like that. Feeding the hungry and barbecue at that. Good, Jeff.
it's making my mouth water just thinking about it. But it's just,
Yeah.
a great example of how people can hone their talents and then be such an incredible gift to their community, because they are because they're, they're not just in it
Hmm.
for whatever. They're also there to help and to serve. So it's a
Yeah.
great serving attitude.
To help and to serve. I love that. That's what we're finding every week, that more people, almost is like they're looking for ways to help and serve others, and then the perfect thing that fits them comes in and they're able to do that. I just think that's super duper cool.
Hmm. Yes, it is. And speaking of helping and serving, I understand you have a story for us, Raven, about a 9-year old that's helping those with hearing loss.
Yes, her name is Allie Tublin, and this is just such an amazing story because she had hearing problems of herself and needed a hearing device, and it was so expensive that she decided to help others like her. Her name is Allie Tublin. She's 9 years old, and she has inspired the legislation in Congress to help thousands of Americans receive hearing device by requiring insurance companies to cover it. Otherwise, Jeff, they would have had to pay, I believe it's like $10,000. It's called
Wow.
Bajas. Yes. And so her Congress, I think, is Joe Neguse, Neguse. I apologize if I'm saying it wrong. He's a Democrat of Colorado. Anyway, this congressman, she wrote him and told him about her struggle to hear and how important a certain type of hearing aid named Baha, Baha, is, and it's an implantable device that most insurance companies do not cover. Again, $10,000. Average homes don't have that, right?
No.
So the congressman, he now co-sponsors Allie's Act, is what it calls, which requires insurance companies to cover. I think it's most of it or a huge portion of the device. And this was introduced on January 27th, 2021. So this was just last month this was happened. Now she did this back in 2019 is when she started it. by writing a letter to the elected official. And at that time, she was in the third grade, and she was assigned to something to better her community. That was kind of like her third grade assignment. And this is what she came up with because it helped her and other people. But imagine being able to get that and have to pay $10,000 so that your child could hear. And like I said, Jeff, the average family doesn't have that. So kudos for Allie for coming up with this and being inspired by her assignment in school to do this. And huge kudos to the Democratic Corrado, Joe Nagais, for co-sponsoring this act. And again, this was actually introduced, we're proud to say, just last month on the 27th of this year. How cool is that? Beat that good news. And that came from coronavirus. And this is the news story come from that. And it's spelled Karuna virus. And this is a news site that, is all about good news.
Good news during the great shutdown.
Mm-hmm. I guess that one's probably pronounced Karuna virus, huh? Karuna virus. Yeah. .org. So you guys can go watch that story. We got a couple others from them coming up.
Yes, we do. Food seems to be a big theme with this this episode, because our next tidbit comes from goodnewsnetwork.org, and this is about what do you do with parking garages that are no longer in use.
Paris garages. Okay.
Parking garages, right? They're they're underground, they're dark, they're damp.
Yeah.
What a great environment for growing mushrooms.
Wow.
So in Paris, they have begun using old was it Paris is turning? So the headline was Paris is turning dark underground parking lots into organic mushroom farms. So they are not just growing mushrooms, but they're growing organically.
Wow.
Organic certified mushrooms in unused underground parking garages. So it's a great way to repurpose urban space that is not being used. And they have a photo here of one of the growers. And just thought, what an innovative way to revitalize something that would be not just an eyesore, but a potential danger spot unless you dig them out. Because many of those garages go down 2, 3, 4, 7 stories underground.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do with those when they're no longer in use? Grow organic.
But it amazes me with what people come up with. My goodness. Huh.
Wow. It's just incredible.
It is super incredible. You know what? The mind is just an amazing thing, isn't it? How we can really just tap into stuff and come up with these super duper ideas that help so many. It's amazing. I mean, sometimes you just wonder, how did they think about it? How did that idea come together? Oh, I know what I'll do. We'll just get a bunch of garages and do this. Oh my goodness, that is just stunning. Okay.
And it's the power. It's the power of having a serving heart. Having a how can I serve the people around me perspective. It just it results in unlimited opportunities, unlimited ideas, and also attracts other people that then expand that even farther.
Having a serving heart, yeah. I'm telling you. And a creative mind.
A creative mind.
Yes. A serving heart, I guess, unleashes the creativity, right? Because you're just like, there's got to be a way I can help. And then boom, there you go, there you go, there you go. Well, okay, here's a good one. Texas had that bad storm. I don't know about you, Jeff. I got family in Texas, my daughter, my grandson, and my nieces, and nephews and my sister. So I was concerned, and I bet a lot of people that are watching our Good News Report, they either was in the thick of it last week or they had a family that was. And, there was no lights, no water, and no food. I know because my daughter and grandson did not have all three. Okay. And so this was a case of many Texans. So a Texas restaurant gave out 500 plus free meals to those in need and did this without power. Imagine this. They're dealing
Without
with
power.
yeah, without power. There they are right there. Yeah. So they gave out 500 free meals. Well, see, when the power went out in Texas last week, rather than closing down, the owners of Texas restaurants, so it was a group of them, jumped right in to serve more than 500 people their first hot meal, many in days, for free. They didn't try to take advantage of the opportunity. Sometimes you hear about that, Jeff. They did it
Mhm.
for free. And this was a group of restaurants. And during this pandemic, restaurants has been struggling anyway. So this is a really, really big thing. And using the restaurant's gas stoves, restaurateur Ari and I think Bill help me out, Jeff. Blaneria, okay, close. Along with 5 staff members, whipped up hundreds of portions of spaghetti and lasagna for anyone who needed a hot meal. He had multiple people sending photos from home saying that was the first hot meal they had had like in 3 or 4 days. And their gesture of community caring, Jeff, comes as millions, as I said earlier, of Texans lost their power for days. In fact, I know a couple people that are still dealing without that. So this was a huge, huge thing. Now, why did Ari do this? Well, he was a refugee, and he had did, he when he came to the United States, people had helped him out, and he said he thought that he would return the favor, and this is how they did it. And can you imagine? There's 500 families that are just super excited that they did, because, I mean, imagine dealing with 3 major things, Jeff. 3 major things all at the same time: no water, no food, and no power. Very uncomfortable. My heart went out to many, and there's still many people suffering because their homes, their pipes busted, and then on top of that, to deal with not being able to eat. I know as a mom, it broke my heart that my grandson and my daughter, and they're both grown, but it's, I was a mother here in California, they were in Texas, and I couldn't sleep. So there were many families like me. So for a couple restaurant owners to get together to do this while they're dealing with the same issue, and that's so what remarkable about this, right? They didn't even think
Yes,
about it
indeed.
themselves. Yeah, they said, what can we do for our community? So another good news you can use report that puts a smile on your face and in your heart.
Well, and it demonstrates how people pull together in very creative ways
Hmm.
when it's most needed.
When it's most needed. And it's so funny because a lot of us, me included, shut down most of those times. And again, it just astonished me how the power that we all really have within us, right?
Hmm.
We have a lot of power within us, for our minds get creative, we start doing things, and we just start acting, and creating a solution instead of dwelling in the problem. And there's countless of stories like this, but this is the one that I chose because, I can barely go an hour without food. Can you tell?
And again, it's about it shows the power of coming together and looking at what can we do for our neighbors and being focused on helping our local community instead of being obsessed with what people are doing thousands of miles away.
Hmm. Hey everyone, you're listening to Good News You Can Use. I'm Raven Blair Glover, and this is my sidekick, I guess you could say. Oh, honey, I got a sidekick.
Yeah.
Jeff Wolf. Woof.
Woof.
And Jeff, we look for these good news you can use stories, but a lot of the listeners and viewers might be wondering, how they can get their news report in. what do they do, man? What do they do?
Well, if you catch someone doing good work in your community, send that to us at share@goodnewsyoucanuse.com.
Mm-hmm.
Share@goodnewsyoucanuse.com. It's streaming down here in the ticker tape. Send your email there. We'll give you a shout out and share that story. We want to hear what's happening in your community as well. This is really about what's happening locally for all of
Yeah.
us, how we're all coming together to help each other on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, and if you got pictures to go with that, please send it. Jeff loves to show the pictures, because a picture. What they say, 1,000 words. Jeff. Oh,
Yes.
yeah, you know what I mean.
Well,
Hey,
and it's so much easier to connect with with what other people are doing if we have pictures and video
yeah.
of it, that shows it in action. It gives
Oh
us something to
yeah, Jeff will
model
play the
with what
video.
we
Yeah,
do.
yeah. So send it to us at goodnews. .org.
Oh, we're
No, no.
back.
Share at Good News. You can use share at Good News. You can use this right there. Jeff's got it all prettied up for you, and even if you think it's a small thing, send it to us, because when you're giving from your heart, it doesn't matter the size of it, right, Jeff? It could be
That's
good,
right.
it could be small. You could be going in your little 5 houses in your cul-de-sac and giving everybody, a bowl of soup, or helping going to the grocery store and leaving the groceries at the door for those people that have no car or
Mhm.
cannot get out, in this pandemic to take care of themselves. So, what you got, Jeff? You got another one?
Well, that's a great setup for our next story, because it could be your elderly neighbor in the apartment at the end of the hall
Mm,
that can't get out, especially during, the pandemic, that needs some help. And in fact, we have a story about getting this queued up right here about a gentleman who had volunteered in St. Paul as part of a volunteer crew that was helping the elderly. They were raking leaves and helping them with things around their property, their homes, as well as delivering food and doing grocery
uh-huh.
shopping for them because they couldn't get out during the pandemic. And it turned out that he's actually originally from England, and he recognized this elderly woman's accent, and it created an affinity between them because they both were from the UK, from England. And he began talking with her. So this turned into something so much more than just helping, rake her leaves, shovel the snow, do grocery shopping. And it ended up being something where he actually visited on a very regular basis, and he had long conversations at a safe distance through her front door, and brought that social connection while staying physically distanced, brought that social connection that's so important by being there, being friends, and just having a chance to see each other, look eye to eye, and share stories, listen to her stories, because this woman's 90 years old now, and to hear
What?
from her experience in life,
Mm,
and made such a huge difference for her, but also for him. And think about that as you're watching this. Who is nearby? Is there somebody in one of the apartments on a different floor down the end of the hall? Someone in a house down the street that doesn't get out much? You see them, but you haven't seen them for a while. Have you stopped and talked with them to check in? Are they okay? To hear, if nothing else, someone at that age, they have incredible life experience and wonderful stories to share that are a joy to hear, but also usually have some lessons in them that you can apply in your life too.
mm. Wow, that warms my heart right there. Look at that. I mean, that a picture. What's that saying? A
A
picture.
picture tells us is worth 1,000 words or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
But it
it. I
tells
mean,
the
just
story. You see that, with the two
yeah,
of them talking through the doorway. Here's a
yeah.
great example of how a
And
picture tells the
looking
story.
in each other's eyes. Look at how they're looking at each
Mhm.
other. And this is really good because prior to the pandemic, many times we would talk, and we're so used to seeing each other, we miss that direct eye contact,
Mhm.
and we have great technology right now, but nothing beats that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that right there is awesome. And at someone being 90 years old, can you imagine how this made her smile? She, and no telling how long it had been since someone was that close to her, right? And looked her in her eyes and stuff.
And look at the headline that they had. This came to us through the Star Tribune. You can
Mm-hmm.
get more information, more stories at startribune.com. And is St. Paul Sr. finds friendship through her front window. Now, the
Mm,
relationships offered an unexpected and fascinating history lesson.
yeah.
So
Oh
they
my
both
God.
get so much from,
I want to look
it's part
closer at
of
that.
why humans, why as people we're so, so
Yeah.
social. We both get something from the interaction.
Oh, let me tell you, Jeff, when this thing is over, I'm going to the first person I see on the street and get a hug. I mean, seriously, shake your hand, look in your eye. Just let me, I mean, I think we all can't wait to that moment, right? We're going to celebrate. Okay. We were talking earlier, Jeff, about the storm in Texas. So I have
Hmm.
another story, and this is also by coronavirus. I can't get over that .org, but that is the name of it. And they got a lot of great stories like this one. And this one especially made me smile because Mattress Mac is like famous in Texas. He has this furniture store. It's called Mattress Max. He started selling mattresses years ago. Now he sells all kind of furniture, and he's always a community giver. He always does something for the community. So me, I lived in Texas from 1980 to 2012, and he's like a celebrity. So this made me smile and kind of made me feel like I was back home a little bit. So Mattress Mac, a store owner, offered shelter for those in Texas during the storm last week, as utility crews raced on Wednesday to restore power to nearly 3.4 million customers in Texas. His name is Jim McInvale, yeah. And so he's known as Mattress Mac, Jim McInvale, and he opened up his store as a shelter. Get this, Jeff, not to 100 people, not to 200 people, but to 300 people who lost power in their homes. Now, remember, they just losing power, they lost water too. And the store has a generator that can power the property for several days. And those sheltering found themselves sleeping on one of the store's $3,000 couches or $5,000 beds. And Jim McInvale said he'd keep his store open as a shelter for as long as necessary. So imagine, having a safe place to go. And they probably felt pretty good too, because like I said, Jim McInvale, who's known as Mattress Mac, is like a huge celebrity. Get your mattress today. So he is, and so they probably, they got a little story to tell about that. And it probably was just a really great experience, being there, and certainly something that during a bad time, put a smile on their face. So kudos, yeah, to Jim McInville, Mattress Mac. Mhm.
What a great story.
300 people, Jeff. That's a
Yes.
lot
Oh
of
my
freaking
gosh.
people.
It
Yeah.
is.
I
It
should have
is.
told
No,
my
and
daughter and grandson to catch a bus over there, but buses wasn't running because they didn't have power, I guess.
well, even if they did, they don't
Get
have,
gas
in
or
Texas, they're not used to that level of snow. So having the snow equipment and the infrastructure to be able to clear the roads is another problem
Yeah,
with,
my daughter
with a
said
rare
just
storm like that.
walking to the store, it felt like they were ice skating. And she said they fell a bunch of times. Both her
Mm.
and Chris is a big guy too, so they both fell on the way there and on the way back because it was almost like a sheet of ice. And they had to stand outside. My daughter and grandson had to stand outside of a small grocery store for 3.5 hours in a line to get some food and water. So
Wow.
yeah, and they were without electricity for 4 days, without water, couldn't flush the commode, couldn't wash their face, and then when it came back on, they had to boil water for everything. So it was a mess. And this is something Texans. I mean, I lived there, like I said, from 80 to 2012. We went through floods and hurricanes, but we never went through anything like that, where we lost our power for 4 days.
Mm.
So those people that stepped up, like Mattress Mac, and the story we were saying earlier about feeding 500 people, and then you had a story, oh my goodness, it's just again shows you that we're not all bad people. There's a lot more good people than bad people. So that's why I
Hmm.
enjoy our good news you can use reports, and I'm sure our listeners and viewers do too, Jeff, because it shows us another side of things that we hardly ever get a chance to look at. And it's pretty nice. It's pretty cool to be able to see that.
Right. It's a great reminder, looking for these stories each week to spotlight. It's a great reminder of how there is way more good news than bad, even in tough times like we went through in 2020 and now in 2021. There's way more good things happening, way more stories of people helping other people, bringing out the goodness from the heart as
Mm-hmm.
they serve their communities, as they serve their friends, family, and neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
And it also, another theme, especially in this week's stories, is how entrepreneurs that find themselves in a position where they can help, where they can serve, they do it. There's such a great force for good in their communities because they have a
Yeah.
heart for service. That's partly how they've gotten into business for themselves. They found a problem, solved it, delivered value, and then do things like the famous mattress guy in Texas, right? Everybody knows who he is, but
Mattress
he
Mac.
opened.
Get your mattress today. Love him. Love
And as you're watching this, think about it. It the moments in your life that have made a big difference because
him.
someone reached out and reached a hand out to you, or because you reached a hand out to someone else. Those are really those moments in life. I mean, our lives are a series of moments. In reflecting on that, you may find that those moments are what really makes life worth it, what really makes life valuable. The richness of it, the joy in it, comes
Mm.
from that.
I'm still seeing that lady looking in the window and that guy just, leaning in, and,
Hmm.
their eyes, which I could see their eyes just connecting. I think I'm going to have, out of all the stories, that's probably my favorite one, because the picture is 1,000 words. I mean, look at that. I mean, it was just so great. You could just see that they were connecting in a deep way, and I could just feel the joy of her, having someone close to her without being close, but close enough
Hmm.
to her eyes. I'm sure there were moments they probably even touched the window and stuff. It's I don't know, the pandemic. I think when we all come out of this, we will appreciate each other in a whole different way.
Hmm.
I think we passed each other before, and it was great seeing each other, but it's going to be really great. It's going to be so great to see you again, Jeff, and to give you a
It
hug,
is.
and Alice, and to shake your hands. Oh, I miss that. I just can't wait. I'm excited. Gives us something to look forward to. Yep,
It
for
is,
sure.
and that's really what it's about. We may be physically distanced for now, but we're
Hmm.
still socially connected. It's that heart to heart connection that makes all the difference.
Yeah, and this is our way of giving back, right, Jeff? This is
Yes.
our heart to heart connection to you, each and every one of you. We thank you for tuning in every day. Jeff, do you have any other stories you want to share?
No, that was the last story. And just want to, as you're watching this, this is 21st century television. It's meant to be interactive. So as you're watching this, send comments. We can see the comments. We'll share them out. We'll give you a shout out. We want to have a conversation. And also, as you're seeing good deeds being done in your community, catch somebody doing good work, talk to them, get a photo, get a video. If you see an article, and then send it to us at share at goodnewsyoucanuse.com. Again, that's share at goodnewsyoucanuse.com, because we want to share your stories with the world as well.
And
We
we
need
know you got
all the
some great
positive
stories.
information we can get, all the positive stories, so we can continue to remind ourselves, remind each other that it's that heart to heart connection
Yeah,
that
and if you're
really makes
trying to
life.
figure out one day what you can do during this pandemic to help, think about your neighbors. Just think right there in your own little circle, your own community, places that you pass all the time, homes that you pass all the time.
Yeah.
Have that imprint of the lady and that guy connecting. There's so many people. that are really missing that connection. Jeff, I have a sister in Ohio, and she has nobody there to come visit
Mm.
her, and I can hear the loneliness in her. Sometimes I just try to, even if you can't be there, pick up the phone more often and reach out. That's good news we can use too. A lot of stuff you don't have to just, have a lot of money or have a car to get out. Some things we can do right there within our home, like picking up the telephone.
Absolutely. And you know what? And that's a great closing thought to leave you with as you're watching this. Who
Hmm.
haven't you talked to in days, weeks, maybe years?
Yeah.
Reach out to them. Say, "Hey, how are you? I was thinking about you."
Especially those that live by themselves.
Yes.
Hmm. And have nobody there, maybe a pet, thank goodness. And some don't even have a
Mhm.
pet. They're there by themselves. Just
Mm,
think, we've been going through this a year now, right? Or a year in a few weeks, so about a year. And some of those people are extremely lonely. And just you saying hello is good news they can use. And we'll close
that's
with
right.
that, right, Jeff?
Yes, indeed. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Good News You Can Use featuring Raven Blair Glover. I'm your co-host, Jeff Wolf, and we'll see you next week.
I'm trying to point. Jeff, that's Jeff. Whichever way you're doing. And share your good news you can use. All right. We'll